Kai Kadosh Boker Tov. We're just continuing with the halachot of Pesach, or the halachot of Chodesh Nissan. In Siman Taf Kaftet is brought down in Siv Bet and Shulchan Aruch, En noflim al penehem bechol Chodesh Nissan. There's no nefilat apayim or any tachanunim or vidui throughout the entire month of Nissan. And he says over here, Ve'en omrim tzidkatecha b'Shabbat b'mincha. We also do not say tzidkatecha on Shabbat mincha and onwards. Ve'maspidim bo, you don't do espedim, eulogies. Ve'mitanim bo le'askir b'tzibur, right? And also you're not going to do taniyot, all right, or le'askir b'tzibur v'bechorot mitanim b'erev Pesach. But the bechors are going to come and they're going to do tanit on erev Pesach. Then he says you don't say tzidukadin during the month of Nisan, and they don't even do taniyot whatsoever, even if it's going to be that they have the nachala of a parent during that month. But tanit chalom they do it, and then it continues with other halachot for erev Pesach. Here the Mishnah Berurah brings down what is the reason why we don't do tachanunim the entire month of Nisan, because the 12 Nesiim brought during the Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first 12 days, they brought their korbanot, and therefore for the first 12 days of Nisan, right, it was considered a Yom Tov. Erev Pesach, right, is going to be the 14th and then the 15th and all the days of Pesach, and Isru Chag, so then you have the majority of the month. And since the majority of the month you do not have, because if you think about it, if Pesach is already going to be 7 days, right, and you have Isru Chag is the 8th day, so that's already 8 days. Then you have the first 12 days, right, that they don't do Tahanounim, so that's already 20 days. So if you have 20 days of the month, which is the majority of the month, that you're not going to have Tahanounim, so therefore you do not do Tahanounim the entire month of Nisan. Here is actually brought down an incredible concept also in the Maaser Rokeach. Maaser Rokeach brings in the Mishnayot, he comes and he says like this, he says, La'atid lavo tiyeh chanukat bet hamikdash achar yom tov האחרון של פסח, שיבנה ביום טוב והם מערבים שמחה בשמחה. He says in the future, Be'ezrat Hashem, speedily in our days, when is the Bet HaMikdash HaShlishi going to be built? It's going to be built on the Yom Tov of Pesach, and then he says you're going to have Chanukat Bet HaMikdash after Yom Tov HaAcharon Shel Pesach. Remember that when they did the Chanukat Bet HaMikdash, also for Beit Rishon, or also for Beit Sheni, it was for 7 days. And it was here he says, since Em Me'arevin Simcha B'Simcha, you cannot mix one Simcha with another Simcha, you would have to do it afterwards for 7 days until the end of Nisan. And therefore we do not come and mention Tachanunim Zecher La'atid. This is in order to remember for the future, which is actually going to be an incredible concept that we're not only just not because of, listen, majority, and then we come out with it, that's it. No. In the future as well, Be'ezrat Hashem, the third Bet HaMikdash will be built. Not only just will be built on Nisan, it's going to be built on Yom Tov of Pesach. And therefore, if it's going to be built on the Yom Tov of Pesach, or throughout the Yom Tov of Pesach, whether it's going to be on Chol Moed, whether it could be built on Yom Tov, because there's a whole question about that as well. But whichever the case is that afterwards you're going to take 7 days, and those 7 days also, it's Chanukat HaBayit. And the Chanukat HaBayit, you're not going to do Tachanunim. So therefore, these are going to be 7 days that you're not going to have also Tachanunim. This is also brought down in the Rav Chida, in a Sefer Kiser HaChamim, and Kikar LeEden. Right, and he comes and he says V'kileso, right, and he actually he praised it, and it's brought down also in the Kaf HaChaim and the Chazon Ovadia. So because of that, we do not do Tachanunim the entire month of Nisan. Now we don't say Tzidkatecha, we also don't do Tzidukadin or Tzidkatecha or all these things, right? And also on Erev Shabbat or Erev Yom Tov after Chatzot, anyway we don't say Tachanunim. But on Erev Rosh Chodesh and Erev Chanukah after Chatzot, they do say Tzidukadin, right? Okay, fine. And then the Mishnah Berurah brings down that on the first 13 days, you're going to come and you're going to read the Parashah of the Nesiim, which means that we know that every single day, the first 12 days, you have Parashat Nesiim. The 13th day, you're going to read Be'alotecha until Ken Asa et HaMenorah. So that's also going to be, right, also very important. Then there's a concept, okay, fine, do you not do Ashkavot? So here it's actually brought down that when it says that we're not going to mention, right, neshamot, ven maskirim bo neshamot, or tzidukadin, it means that they don't do ashkavot. However, though, the Rav Chida and here the Kaf HaChaim actually brings down that our minhag was to mention ashkavot throughout the month of Nisan. right? Meaning that some people would say, listen, you don't do whatsoever. You don't mention anything to do with hashkava, which is the prayer for the remembrance of the deceased. He says, no, our minhag is to do so. Now, what about going to the cemetery? So some people say that you shouldn't go to the cemetery throughout the entire month of Nisan. However, though, he comes and he says, that's the Or Letzion. However, though, the minhag is, Rabbi Shlomo Masas comes and he says, our minhag is to go up during the month of Nisan to the Bet HaKvarot, whether it's going to be during the Shiva, the Shoshim, or the 12 months. And that's also minhag Yerushalayim, which means you have to remember that this applies even for Chanukah. Somebody once made this mistake. He went and he said, you don't go to the cemetery on Chanukah. And it was actually the Shloshim, or the Shiva. Right? The minhag of Morocco, as Rabbi Shlomo Masas says, no, our minhag was to go to the cemetery if it's going to come out the 7th day, or the 30th day, or the year is going to come out, even if it's going to come out on Chanukah, or it's going to come out during the month of Nisan, we do go to the cemetery. And the reason why is because since that's the day, Stam, you're not going to go, okay, fine. Don't go to the cemetery during the month of Nisan if there's no reason to go specifically during that time. The time is supposed to be a happy time. However, though, if there's a reason for going, because it's going to be the 7th, the 30th, or the year, so then you will go to the cemetery, even though it's going to be during the month of Nisan.